Luke Peterson. Luke, how long you been a member here for?
About 4.5 years.
4.5 years. Yeah. Did you go to the 880 location?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I first moved here, summer of 21.
Yep.
And was right over there in that building. Maybe my third workout was Murph over there.
Okay. So you were over there for 6-7 months before we moved over here. Yep. That's what I thought you were here then, but I didn't know if you had made that trip over.
Had you just moved to the area then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, moved like in May, and within that week I was in CrossFit Grandview over there. I knew moving here that this was where I wanted to be.
Okay.
For a gym. Like I had done some of that research and knew right when I got here I was coming.
What was your previous CrossFit experience before you were here?
So I had a torn labrum. And right before I moved, I had that like surgically repaired.
Okay.
And so I had done like a couple months in a gym. I lived in Ames, Iowa before here. And so I had joined a CrossFit gym there for like a few months before I moved here. But I had kind of already bought into the CrossFit, the CrossFit workout style and all of that. So I knew coming here I wanted to join a CrossFit gym, but had like a couple months under my belt.
Did you hurt it doing CrossFit?
No, okay. I heard it in high school. It was actually torn for like 10 years.
Yep.
But it didn't, affect my life all that much, honestly. Especially, playing basketball and golf, it wasn't,
they're not overhead sports as much.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Like, and I didn't know it was torn. It was just like I started doing some normal workouts after I graduated college, and mostly the pushing motion was like killing me.
Yeah.
And so I just took like months off, thought I had a shoulder injury that needed to heal and rest, and so I would take the time off. But every time I got back into it, it was like something is wrong in my left shoulder. I'm left-handed, and it was from throwing in high school. Dodgeball, not like a great story, but
sure.
It's like classic in dodgeball where nobody warms up the arm, and it's like the second you grab a ball, it's like just throw it as hard as you can.
100%.
And
with a big trouble. A big heavy red ball.
Yes. Yeah. And so I remember tearing it, but I didn't know that it was torn at the time. I was just like, I think I hurt my shoulder, but then, it didn't affect my life all that much. And then just normal workouts started hurting me. And so, ended up figuring all that out.
How does it feel now?
Amazing.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would never know that I've seen you doing muscle ups and like
it
very
feels,
hard things on your shoulder.
Yeah, it feels 100%. Like it was actually a guy in Ames who was an orthopedic surgeon. I was working for a church there, and he came up to me and was like, hey, I talked to your wife. I heard you're having shoulder pain.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I was icing it, and then I tried heat, and then I like wouldn't work out for a few months and just wasn't, it wasn't healing. And so he's like, just come to my office and let me take a look at it. And, he told me it was torn. We did the MRI, all that kind of stuff. And at the time he was like, you're 25, we can take care of this.
Yeah. And,
you'll heal up and you'll be great. Like, this does not have to limit your life. And so, we did the surgery thing, did the PT, and, I feel, if anything, I have better mobility in my left shoulder now.
I've heard people say that before.
Yeah. Like if you have surgery when you're younger, you mean?
No, I've just heard people say, like, especially if they really buckle down on the rehab, they'll get done, and maybe they had a little issue in their other shoulder too, but like they're like, this shoulder's better now, or the, I've really heard
the PT, it was like, I was really faithful in the PT because the surgeon told me, like, after the surgery, like, hey, everything went great, but there's some things you're going to have to do now if you want this to be back to 100%. Sure. And so, I'm like, I'm young enough. I want to have enough of an active lifestyle. So I did everything the PT told me, all the mobility, all the strength. And I think that's what it was, just like focused stretching and strength there for a couple months.
Yeah.
And then, feel great.
It's a big thing with kids and kind of wrongfully why some of them are having almost like preemptive Tommy John with throwing.
Oh, with that.
So the thought it's two things, like that they're pulling a ligament that is stronger than the natural one to replace it in the arm. But a big one that they really think too is just that people are doing like all these arm exercises and this extended, 9 to 12 month rehab to like strengthen an arm that has never been like worked out that way, and then they come back and they can throw harder. It's a little. I don't love kids having surgery, like to throw a baseball harder, but
they do it to throw a baseball harder.
Yeah, some of them are having it like.
Oh my! No, I misunderstood.
Like 15, 16.
That's so messed up.
It's
Let's not make this podcast about that.
No. I don't want to dive down that rabbit hole.
Here we go.
Performance enhancing
Here we
surgery.
go. Now we're going to have to ask Luke another question.
We're just going to dive down that rabbit hole for 45 minutes. No.
Well, I have a question. Why basketball and golf? Because it seems like kind of an odd combination.
Yeah.
Yin and yang, yeah.
Yeah, it was really playing golf with my dad as a young kid. Like, he was super into golf, and he also coached basketball.
Oh, okay.
And so, I just played a ton of golf with my dad growing up, and that was always like a fun escape, almost of like the other sports. Where it's like walking, it's way more casual, but I always really enjoyed playing. So that was golf. And like through 8th grade, I played soccer and basketball and track, and then getting into high school, it was like, I think I want to play golf instead of soccer. Like I had played, but didn't really love it. But basketball too was like, that's what I played as a young kid too. And that was like my real athletic love was playing basketball. So it was kind of those two, just kind of like running alongside of each other all the way, up through college. And even in college, golf was like the escape of the like high intensity several months of a basketball season.
Yeah.
In college, golf season is fall and spring. And so it was kind of like on either side of basketball, which was so nice.
Yeah.
And it was way more casual for me anyways. Like I really enjoyed playing, but it wasn't like the mental grind of being as good as I could. I didn't love practicing golf, honestly. I just like playing a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you not put as much pressure on yourself to perform in golf as in basketball?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even in the training, like, through middle school and high school and college, like all off season was like basketball training, AAU, traveling, playing. And golf was like the escape of that, where I could just like go have fun with my, family or friends.
Yeah.
It was like, but I didn't enjoy the practice as much, which, of course limited me, to a capacity in golf where it's like, my short game wasn't incredible just because like chipping and putting wasn't all that fun. I'd rather play 9
hours on that.
Totally. Yeah. I didn't love going to the range and just hitting the same shot for an hour.
Yep.
And so I'd want to go play 9, 2 hours, do that. But then basketball was like where the training was for me.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So were you a better basketball player then?
I think so. But in a way, I think in college they were probably pretty equal, but one was more important to me.
Yeah.
But I think even the pressure, like the pressure being totally released from golf also made me good at that.
Yeah.
Just because like golf's so much of a mental sport that like if you're in your own head, like it can totally throw you off. And I think I was free from that because it wasn't a huge deal to me, to compete in that at a high level. So I was probably pretty similar in both.
Yeah.
Kind of like Happy Gilmore, where he's like, I'm a hockey player.
Yeah.
Did you know Lexi golfed at OSU? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so she actually wouldn't golf for a while, probably until she started dating Nick. And then she got back into golfing because exactly what you were saying, she's like, I had to focus on it so much. I hated it.
Yeah.
And then she started picking it back up again and having fun with it again. But it's like anything. You take the joy out of it, whether it's running, you're kind of a good runner, and then you've got to train it. And,
it's like so you can't really master it either. It's like it kind of feels like CrossFit in the sense. There's always a hill.
CrossFit,
there's always like a new hill to take.
Yeah.
There's always something you're not, as good as you should be in, and so that grind can be hard in golf to always showing up and always not performing as well as you think. Because in golf too, you could hit, 70 great shots in 2 bad ones and totally kills you around.
Yep.
So there's always practice and training just to like limit the one mistake you can make in a round.
You can have just a terrible hole that just goes. In most sports, like if you have a bad play, it can be bad, but like a bad hole, you can have 17 good holes. If you blow up and like lose your mind and hit, a 10 or a 12, like you just destroyed your round.
Or like one bad shot that, hook to the left, and now you're in your head of like, okay, now my swing, now what needs to change in my swing for the next shot? You could be so in your head, then now you're hitting it right, and you can get down the mental battle pretty quick. So,
do you play either sport still?
No, I haven't played basketball in like 10 years probably since I graduated. I felt by the end of it super burnt out.
Sure.
It was so much of my life for so long. And in golf, like I'm just in a season of life. I've got 2 young kids, and I occasionally play with my dad, but it's not. I don't play all that much. I'm now worried about injury too in basketball, like just playing in the adult stuff. I've heard enough about like I could just tear a hamstring so easy.
Those rec leagues are always where
totally,
whether it's soccer or basketball, I feel like it's where all the injuries happen.
Tyler Ferricks is a really good basketball player, and he played adult league basketball up until 2 or 3 years ago, and that's what happened to him. And
hamstring.
Yeah, and it slowed him down.
Old men trying to sprint.
Yeah,
exactly.
It slowed him down in the open, and he's like, I'm done playing basketball.
Yeah, and
he's like, I'm going to focus more on like just doing the CrossFit.
Yeah, and I'm like a guy of routine too, and I love coming here and training the way that we do here, and so I don't even want like an injury to mess up my lifestyle and my routines, and it's like I'm a husband and a father and work. Like if I tear my ACL, that's like such an impact in my life of all the things that I enjoy now. And I just don't feel like I need it. I don't need it anymore. So
I've seen some videos that crack me up. And Dave, have you ever seen like, they call it like U37 football, but it's basically like semi-pro or almost like men's recreational, like full on tackle football. And it's like guys in their like mid-30s, like just killing each other. And they have like highlight reels of it.
Yeah. You guys are idiots.
It's really fun to watch.
All the wives are like, we're not visiting you in the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, and these guys like are like, they're like living out their dream, and it's pretty fun to watch, but yes.
It's a good point. Yeah. I think as you get older, like you want to play sports, but in a capacity that like is not going to risk some kind of injury. You get older, it's hard to recover from, but you've got other stuff in life that responsibilities and the way you want to feel, and it's like it's too much of a risk. I don't want to like do something like that. Yeah, so I get it. I'll like play basketball. There's a couple schools in our neighborhood, and there's some hoops there, and I just got to bet. I'll just go out and shoot by myself for some days.
Low risk of injury, just shoot around.
Yeah, just like it's just fun. It's a little bit of release. I'll just put on the podcast or some music and just shoot around, do some layups and things like that, and it's fun. Like I don't need to like be playing defense against anyone or coming down for a rebound and landing on someone's foot. Like,
yes.
So I have a whole business idea, and I'm not going to go real deep into it. Kate's like, oh no. And I was in the shower, and they come in the shower. But it was literally what Dave just said. It was like kind of like a sports complex for guys or dads where you do like workouts and then like sports related games, like shooting contests, like football throwing things, baseball batting cage, like Top Golf type stuff. But it's like a gym and a workout type thing. I don't know how it would be organized, but it started to come to me because of just that. I'm like, a lot of guys, they don't want to play like full on.
I actually
like
think
baseball
that could
games.
do well, especially if you had beer there.
Yeah.
And pizza. And
some apps. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just, I was like, this could be really fun. Like people want to like, you want to go to your kid's sports practice maybe and like be able to throw football and like do these things. And you kind of train it in these like safe, fun ways where it's not full on games.
I could just drop you off on a Saturday and you could play all day. I could come pick you up. You wouldn't even need a babysitter, really.
I know.
You could just be there. Make sure you're supervised a little by the other day.
I'm done.
Okay. We're not getting in. We're skiers. We're getting portable basketball rims for the
This
gym.
is actually
Papa
going
shot,
into the
basketball
gym.
type.
This is your idea for the lobby. How we can utilize that.
Not even the they're going to be in workouts now. Like the 400-meter run is now a 400-meter dribble.
Yeah.
I've seen
like
people
this.
dribble a marathon. To like raise money, raise money for something, just
geez.
dribble a basketball the whole time.
Probably take your mind off how bad the running is.
Oh, wow. That would be so difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be able to switch hands, I feel like.
You'd have to be
That'd be
really good at
awful.
dribbling.
Yeah. Okay, I want to get back to Luke.
Yep.
What did you study in college?
Yeah, so initially, pretty much my story is in high school, you know, it was like athletics was super important. And then, you know, basically I'd even measured, like, you know, I'm a pastor now. And so by the time I got in college, like that's what I was walking towards.
Okay.
But it wasn't like in high school, that wasn't on my radar at all.
Yeah.
You
What
know,
changed?
you know, I had a ton of proximity to Christianity and had actually like measured it and decided I didn't want that for my life. Like I was just around Christians and their lifestyle was like uncompelling to me. And then something in high school started happening where like I felt like probably I was relatively impressive to God. Like I didn't think I was living the kind of life that, you know, he would have been all that disappointed in, just because I was looking sideways a lot. And it was like, oh, I don't think I'm a bad person or anything. And that's how I lived for so much of my life. And then in high school, some stuff started changing in me where I started feeling some like guilt and shame over some of my lifestyle things. And I didn't really know what to do with it. And so eventually I became like, how I talk about it now is I never wanted to be a Christian, but I got to the point where I felt like I needed to be. Like I got to a point where I felt like I've got some sin that needs to be taken care of. And I became convinced Jesus was my only option there.
Like the way you treated other people, or what did you feel guilty about?
Yeah, some of that, just like, you know, some selfishness, or, you know, how easy and prone I was to make life about me, even at the expense of other people. Or, you know, I knew enough about Christianity and proximity to knew that like there was a standard of perfect living that I certainly, you know, wasn't living inside of that, and didn't know anybody who was. Like, you know, there was an impossible standard. And so the impossibility of the standard made me feel pretty comfortable, because like, oh, nobody's at that level. And so I'm like probably fine. But there was just enough things that started, you know, like hitting me in a unique way that I never felt before. And was close enough to Christianity to know that like the belief system of Christianity was there are legitimate consequences to sin. Like, you know, God is loving and forgiving and kind and good and all of those kind of things, but he's also perfectly just in that, you know, like there is legitimate consequences to sin. And, you know, that realization made me, you know, believe that Jesus was my only way out of that. And like he wore the consequences of my sin. Like one of the things that I've said before is like I learned for the first time that it wasn't just that Jesus died for me, but instead of me. Like there was consequences for who I was and the things that I had done, and Jesus wore those consequences so I didn't have to. And so in high school, you know, like I didn't want Christianity, but kind of felt like, is it possible to like have Jesus eternally, like, you know, kind of take the consequences of my sin on my behalf? But then there's like a lifestyle that it was like, yeah, but I also don't want that side of it either. But I couldn't shake that, like there was this version of Jesus that I'd gotten to know that I also really wanted for other people. Like, you know, the people I was running with were like my friends and everything, like no Christianity in that circle. But then I couldn't shake, like Jesus had now done something to me and changed me in a way that I wanted for other people. And so, you know, I was just like, how do I be part of that solution? Like one of the things I learned about Jesus was he was bringing good everywhere he went, you know, and that had spiritual, you know, implications to it, but also like physical implications. Like he brought good everywhere. And so I started wanting to live that way. So in high school, it was like, okay, I actually want Jesus for the people that I love. Like the version of Jesus I just got to know, I want him for other people. And so I'm like, you know, how do I be part of that solution in the world, just to bring that kind of good into the world? And so that kind of started me on a path. And then, you know, it wasn't like now basketball kind of like pushing the trajectory. It was like, okay, then, you know, maybe I should work for an organization that would help me further that mission. And, you know, so I started like, you know, going to church faithfully and like caring about that. And
so your parents didn't?
They went, but I hated it. You know,
they took you when you were younger.
And it was like I hated it. You know, it was like any kind of message I felt like was boring and totally distant from my life.
And it might have been.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
There might have been true. I mean, your sermons are just like, we've gone now several times, and we're explaining to our son, like, listen, Luke's just different. I mean, you're just relate. I mean, the first sermon you had was about basketball. And I'm like, buddy, you should have came in instead of being in the kids' room. You would have loved this, you know? And I mean, I grew up going to church, and I mean, I would just draw until it was time to sing. And then I liked singing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of that, like part of who I've been shaped to be is so much of my history there where, you know, I was like looking at a guy who like looked pretty undisciplined to me. And so I wasn't compelled by like who that guy was.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was speaking from a book that felt confusing and distant to me. And he felt like a boring communicator. And then the music felt goofy, you know, a lot of the times to me too. And so I would go because I knew like my parents made me and I knew it was important to them, but I could never figure that out. Like, why do you guys care so much about this? Like, why do you like want Jesus for me when it seems like this stuff's distant from me, and there's a whole lot that I want in life, and none of it is in this category. And so anyways, in college, I then ended up pursuing like a pastoral degree and, you know, then went to grad school for that as well. And, you know, that just kind of like ended up shaping the direction of my life was.
You went straight in with that intent.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So what, is that typical to get a graduate degree? Is that required?
It's not, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I haven't really heard of that.
Well, you probably need some, I mean, a lot of that, I would imagine with what you do, it's time to keep developing, like,
and probably your communication
being a pastor when
and,
you're 22 or whatever is like, you're pretty,
Green.
you're pretty young to be like dropping knowledge on.
Totally. And there's a lot to learn.
You know?
Like,
you're 22. Don't tell me about suffering.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, there's like, you know, people dedicate their life to just small sections of the Bible. Like, what does it say? What does it mean? How does that
dissecting?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, you know, a lifetime ahead, and I still will, you know, tip of the iceberg in the kind of things that I would know. And so in college, a lot of it was, you know, even getting a framework of like, how do you even open up a book that wasn't written in English and try and figure out like, what was the actual intent of this passage? And, you know, what would God be trying to communicate to us through, you know, if God could give us a book, you know, in him, you know, have all of the knowledge, you know, in the world, like he could give us a book that had answers to life's most difficult questions, or, you know, a book exclusively of do's and don'ts. And so why do we like only have this, you know, like there's even intent in there giving me a framework of like, how do I even open up this thing and figure out what it says and what that means? You know, that was a big part of the education. And I joke now because my master's degree was 4 years, but it would have like no value and implication outside of working in the church world. Like it's called a Master of Divinity is what I have. But so it's like,
you had to change a heart.
Yeah. If I like, you know, stepped out of, you know, working as a pastor, it wouldn't translate into something else, you know. So
I think a lot anymore though. I think a lot of that, if people see, hey, you have a graduate degree, like, you know, you're finding out more and more in this new world that we live in. Like, all right, what's the hustle we're trying to do? And that's
how
fine.
hard are you willing to work?
Yeah,
like
what do you do?
If you're in college,
you know?
and you're playing 2 sports and you're getting your bachelor's degree. I mean, it's just more than anything, just shows that you can juggle.
Yeah.
And what I think is really neat about your story is that like you chose to do this just for like an inner calling to level up.
Yeah.
You know, and looking at other people that you wanted to be like. And I think that's really neat, you know, and that's probably kind of rare in a way. you know?
Because totally for me, it was like, I just got a vision of like who I think God has created me to be. And I wanted to be that and have the influence in the world that I was created to have. And so that just kind of made me take like one step at a time. Like I didn't even know that I had vision of like, you know, moving to a new city and starting a church from scratch. Like that wasn't my vision when I started taking steps this direction. But I think God just, you know, kind of organizing and kind of being in control and me just taking the right next step. But I think, you know, I think pastors in general, like it's not uncommon now for, you know, it to be found out that, you know, either years later or to come out like that who they were became really disappointing to the people that listened to them. Like as they got close, like I think pastors have earned that bad reputation or even, you know, like low amount of trust, just because like who I thought you were out of your communication is not who you ended up to be behind closed doors. And so that, one of the things I'm always trying to, to figure out is, I want to be disciplined in every area of my life. And part of CrossFit too is like me learning how to train myself to be disciplined and not just be so moved by, like the whims and desires of my body. Like there's a section of the Bible that says like discipline your body and make it your slave, just so that you don't forfeit like who God's created you to be, essentially. And so for me, it's like, I showing up, there's like, in fitness, it's so much like, I don't really want to come today, but I've got to discipline myself. And, or like, man, if I want to be everything that I can be in fitness, like there's going to have to be me doing some things I don't want to do, or like eating some things I don't want to eat, or learning how to tell my body like, man, I really want to eat that, but I shouldn't right now. And so, it's impact. Like in college, I felt like in athletics, it was so obvious to me, like if I wanted to be great at golf, there's a playbook in how to become great. It's like, okay, I need to spend a lot of time putting and I need to spend a lot of time chipping. And basketball, the same thing. Like I want to be a better 3-point shooter. It's like, okay, then I better shoot 500 shots every day. And then, when I got to the other side of like who I was and who I was becoming, it felt more difficult to figure out like, what is the playbook for me to become great in who I am and everything I've been created to be felt tricky for me to navigate. And then I read that passage of the Bible, and it's in 1 Corinthians 9 that was like, okay, part of it is me learning how to say no to the whims and desires of my body to say the right thing. Like if I want to be, a great dad, it's like, okay, if I don't want to be an angry dad, then I'm going to have to learn how to, in moments, not just react to like my desires. Or if I want to be a great husband, it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to learn how, for my mind to be hardened and disciplined enough to say no to the things I naturally want, to say yes to something better. And so in college, one of the things I would just like deny myself something every month that wasn't right or wrong. It would just be like, I wouldn't take warm showers for a month just to like try and train, the disciplined part of my body to, say no to what was easy. Or I stopped drinking calories, like anything with calories in it, just as a way to be disciplined. And some of those things have stuck through the years, but I tried to get creative at like, how can I become more disciplined? Because now I walk into the CrossFit gym and it's like, in a way, mentally, I'm training myself to be a better pastor and a person of more integrity and a better husband and a father, because there's so many days where it's like, middle of the workout, I do not want to hop back on that bike. I do not want to step back up to the barbell and rip it up, but I've got to figure out how to train the disciplined part of my mind to be more disciplined and become, who I want to be. And so this has been a great training ground for me, like physically, mentally, even spiritually. Like that's why I love, I love coming in here. I love the routine because I just feel like I'm practicing some really good things in life every day.
I think that's really, really neat. And I really don't feel like, that's just kind of my whole belief with wellness. You can't separate, the mind, body, spiritual. And just personally, I didn't want to make this whole podcast about like religion or anything, but what I always found, at least like with my experience with the church and church-like people, I'm like, no one has any discipline. I just don't respect them. And maybe that's wrong to say, but I'm like, we're all showing up. Everyone's just eating whatever they want. They're just kind of like doing whatever with their body. And so I would like really went through a lot of soul searching for many years and just kind of studying different religions and reading different books. And like Buddhism always kind of stuck out to me. It seemed like a lot of discipline with the body. And I really appreciated that. And I'm not really like one set way, but I really appreciate what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table. And I really have more of like an inclusive belief, but of all religions. And I think there's, kind of points to each of them that I really appreciate, But I think, there's always that component. And I think, like, especially if you can connect, like, with yourself and that true, like, if you're connecting with yourself in a workout, then you can feel when to push, when to pull back, when your body's going to give out. And to me, that's spirituality. Like, whatever you call it, whoever you're connecting, there cannot be, like, a separation between you and God and that, And I think we might not realize it. And some people might just even call it the source or whatever. But I think that is what that is. And I think like the more you can just kind of connect with yourself, the happier and healthier you can be. But it's neat because it's like it's something unspoken. You kind of say it in so many words, but like you're not trying to be perfect up there. And I think that's really cool, you know, and it's in doing that, I think for me, you gain a lot more of my respect. And that in a way is what I'm trying to do as a coach. Like, hey, listen, I struggle with this every single day. So I've been, you know, on the other side of the table where I've been a client in so many different situations. And even if it's like, there was a woman, Lexi, Maddie, and I were meeting with, she was a recovered binger, and she was really sweet, and she had a lot of good advice for us. And that's what we're dealing with, working with a lot of people, just overeating, right? And like spouts of overeating. So guys just call it overeating. Women call it binging, and we beat ourselves up over you know, and we're like, we're a binger. We should probably get help. And, you know, we're in therapy and stuff. Guys are just like, I don't know why I did it, you know, but you guys are probably sad too about something. But so I'm talking to this woman, and I'm like, you know, do you ever struggle with this anymore? And she's like, no. And I'm just like, after we got fun, like, this bullshit. Absolutely bullshit. You either give up or you struggle with it.
Yeah.
And the struggle is what makes you great, because it's not that you don't ever want warm showers again. You struggle with it probably every day when you get in there and you have the cold ass shower on you, and you're like, man, I really want to warm.
It'd be easier to do something.
Yeah. And there's a, you know, and there's a fine line. I don't see you as someone that just like lashes themselves out of unnecessary means, but you know, it is the struggle that makes you better. And I'm really on, like, I will mess up, whether that means I overate or I had too many glasses of wine that I wanted to. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is something I struggle with, and this never ends. It's like your human experience. So if you want to continue being healthy, you will always struggle with this. Hey, I don't want to get out of bed. Get out of bed. Go do the workout. I don't want to do the workout. Or maybe I push myself too hard. I will show up to show that I'm tough, and then my body breaks down. That's sort of my struggle too. And that's something I have to let go of. That's ego in a different way, you know? And I think to just be honest about that, I think is really neat. And it takes more confidence to do that than to stand up there and be like, well, you know, I have it all figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even, you know, me as a communicator, it's like, I believe there is somebody who is perfect, and that's not me. And nobody would believe that was me either. Like I'm just like a fellow human being who's struggling and trying to figure things out and trying to, you know, become everything I've been created to become. And so, you know, that's why it's easier for me to, like, on a stage on a Sunday morning, like, be open and free with struggle. Cause it's like, I believe there is a hero. I'm not him. You know, I just want to leverage my life to, you know, shine a light on somebody else. And so, you know, that relieves the pressure for me to, you know, have to be better than I am, or, you know, anything like that, which I think even, you know, to your point, it's like, that's what people want, is like an authentic. That's why I think the podcast culture is so, like, people listen to podcasts so much, because I think even the formal communicator, like, it just doesn't land as much anymore. It's like people would rather listen to conversation.
Like, oh, cool, Kate and Brandon argue too.
Exactly. You know, yeah. Or even, like, you know, I've talked openly, like, you know, Shaelyn and I got married and fought all the time, and we're trying to figure that out of, like, you know, did we make a mistake? Are we with the right, you know, people? And it's like, yeah, the beginning of our marriage was super difficult, and, you know, it's like, yeah, but our story can be impactful, and we don't have to be perfect, and we don't have to be heroes, and our marriage doesn't have to be the best one ever, you know, in those early stages. We're just trying to, you know, become somebody and influence
and maybe
the world.
You guys arguing was the most authentic way to move through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where that's not, I don't think that's given enough justice sometimes, where, like,
playing the long game.
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier for, you know, both of you to kind of push your needs down or your thoughts or beliefs, and to make everything easier. But if you just confront it straight on, it's not always comfortable.
Right.
You know, and it's cool. You show up in a t-shirt and jeans, and you're not trying to, like, slick back, you know, and trying to, you know, do anything that you aren't, you know. And I think, I mean, and what's neat too, that what really inspired me to have you on, you were talking about, like, culture and, like, creating a culture. And
that was a really good.
It was awesome. Yeah. And it made me really think about, like, our gym and, like, what we want to create here. And I'm like, I I want this to be a place where people come in, they're like, there's really good people here. Like if you lose, and I don't want to say this and someone gets something stolen, but if you lose like a water bottle, your Beats headphones, they'll be I've seen Beats headphones sitting back there for like 2 months. Where, and it doesn't even matter to compare to other places, but I'm just saying, I've worked at a lot of gyms, and that's not been the case. And
if you leave your wallet in the cubby, it's going to be
gone.
Here. It's going to be here if you
hear
it for it.
And like, how do you do that? And I think it's all the small things. Like if I'm losing in a workout and someone's beating me, I'm still going to cheer them on because maybe that's not my day. I don't feel good that day, or it's not my workout or whatever, but I can still be happy for that person and they will inspire me.
Yeah. And to your guys' credit, like I love this gym for a lot of reasons. Like, the level of fitness here is crazy. And so I love being around it because it's, it's pulling me up into the places that I want. But the other side is true too. Like the people here, I really love. I love being around them. And I think even from the outside, like as I talk about CrossFit and as I try and get people in here, there's sometimes, there's a lot of intimidation with gyms in general or with CrossFit in general. And so when I bring people in here for like a partner workout or something, they leave like, that wasn't near as intimidating as I anticipated. Or, people were like way more across the spectrum in fitness than I anticipated, And so I think even the culture of this gym already is like, as people come in, it's like, walk into the door, there's so much nerves, but then walking out, it's like, oh, that was great. And nobody made me feel bad. And the coaches, it wasn't like, wait, you don't know how to, hook grip on the clean. It's like nobody's feeling bad about that because there's an understanding. It's like people are all over the place in fitness and we're all just trying to get a little bit better today. And so, I think you guys have done that. So, one of the reasons I love the gym, I heard in basketball growing up that like, if you're the best one in the gym, then you should find a new gym. You should find a better gym. And that's like always going to be true for me here. Like, anybody I talk to in fitness, it's like, we can put you in a room and really quickly you're going to know that there are levels to this fitness thing. And we're an ocean from super fit. There's that side of it. And so, bringing people in so that they can just get better little by little in a gym that has so much top end fitness. I feel like it would be really difficult to create the culture that's really low intimidation, but I think that's unique here of like, Shaelyn loves the barbell side, and it's like between Rev and Power Hour, it's like, when she started doing those things, it was like, doesn't have a lifting background, doesn't have a ton of muscle mass. And it was like, that's why she loves this place is because she's growing in that and getting better and not feeling like the intimidation, in fact, growing in a lot of friendships. And so, all across the board, we love it. We love it top to bottom.
The more we can kind of, I always feel like things kind of work like top down. Like if we are letting, like, even from like a competitive standpoint, I wasn't ever that great, but like just not be so competitive that is the thing that takes over. I'm always trying to chase something here. I can't enjoy fitness anymore. Like you were saying, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like where you stop enjoying golf or whatever. Like I actually have always really enjoyed working out. So when it starts to not be fun, even if it's me on my level trying to train for the open, I want to back off, until it's fun again and then do it because that feels good. And I think if people listen to themselves, then they'll always be into fitness in that way, whether it's like, CrossFit might become like not fun for someone.
Yeah.
So then they can like go to Power Hour for a little while, or it's just like hurting their body, or it's too much and they need some time off, or whatever they need to do. You can kind of flow in and out, and there's not a lot of judgment there. Like CrossFit isn't the only type of fitness. You can run. You can, those marathon runners are in amazing shape. The power lifters are in great shape. There's just so many different modalities, not one's like the ultimate superior.
Yeah, and I think I learned that from Drake pretty early on, because even my athletic background was, I would show up and I would just want to compete. Like the leaderboard made it fun for me.
Yep.
Like there was always, I could always see how I stacked up. And he talked to me one time about the difference between competing and training. And I've even learned that from the best athletes in the gym, where it's like they might do a workout where, they feel like maybe they really need to get better at like stamina on the pull-up bar. And so how they're going about the workout is not like, what's the quickest I could finish this workout, in this form. It's like, no, let me like do the kind of workout where I'm really challenging myself in this piece. And I'm not going to perform all that great, but I'm training because now I'm going to be more fit at the end. Right. And in a particular class, it's like everybody's like on their own fitness journey. And so, that's the beauty of like, nobody's looking around in judgment, because it's like, yeah, that person like a few squares over, might just be trying to like get better at running. And so they're, that's the focus of this workout. And so they're going to go lighter on the dumbbells in this thing. And that's okay, And so flowing in and out, like I now do Rev with Shaelyn. We do the partner Rev workout on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And I love that because, I do like all levels Monday through Thursday, and then I work out with Drake and Callie, either doing something way above my head in some qualifier or like an L2 or something. By the time I get to Saturday, it's like my body's like feeling cooked.
Yep.
And so Rev is amazing because it's like typically lighter weight. It's not going to be a really high cost, but the heart rate's going to be really high, and they'll be like flowing back and forth with a partner. And so
it's just more fun.
It's way more fun, and it feels really good on my body on a Saturday, on a Saturday morning. And, even appreciate you guys with the kids room, cause we used to do like Shaelyn would come and do either Rev or Power Hour. Then I'd bring the kids,
switch off.
She'd take them home. I'd go to the CrossFit class. And now with Rev, it's like, we love 8 a.m. Rev, put the kids in there. It's saving us so much time. Our kids love the room.
Yeah.
And it's like a perfect like way for me. Cause I'll just take Sundays, completely off of working out, but Saturday's like the perfect like workout for, how my body feels. And so I appreciate that, within this gym too. And even within the coaches and with you guys as, as owners and leaders, it's like, everything's not about like that leaderboard that particular day. Like it's not, nobody really cares, it's like, but there's some measurables that's helpful for us on our journey too.
It's still fun. And I think, and I appreciate that. But I think it's still fun to have like, okay, I saw Luke, man, he got 19 minutes in this workout. I'm going to try to at least stay within a minute.
Yes.
And I'll look it up. And if I see you, I'm like, I probably won't catch you, but I want to, like, if I was in the workout with you, I don't want you to lap me,
Right.
So it's inspiring.
Totally.
And you just as an individual inspire me. So I appreciate that.
Man.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Good to be here.